would you like to know the exact reason why some patients get emotionally stuck? They have objections to your care, or they walk out or quit. Would you like to have the confidence to know how to handle any objection with any type of person or patient in front of you that can move them through their objections and handle all their objections? Well, if you said yes to both of those, then would you like to feel the freedom that your communication was so powerful that you could find their innate emotional desire to change their life so you can help even more patients move into long-term lifetime care so you can fulfill your purpose and change their life and help a real chiropractic message get out to humanity? Well, that's why we created MCA. My name is Dr. Fred DiDomenico of Elite Coaching and Master Communication Academy, and this is a professional communication training that can do exactly that. Help people move through that fear and limitation that's holding them back. Find that empowered emotional resource to help people want to change their life, take massive action, and really live a chiropractic lifestyle. Isn't that really our purpose in chiropractic? Now, I came out of school 30 years ago, this is 2017, it's 1987. I came out of school and I was fired up about the principle of chiropractic, and I think all of humanity deserves it. However, after 11 years and 4 coaches and tens of thousands of dollars in communication, being a corrective care doctor, I felt very confident that I could get a correction. And even though I had successful practices, it was the people that walked out. It was the people that I didn't know why. I just gave them more information because that's all I knew. And then I realized there was no communication training in chiropractic that could help me understand why people would reject changing their life. Why were they stuck? And so what I started to do is I realized those answers weren't in chiropractic. And so I started going outside of chiropractic, and I studied top influencers in the world. I studied research on human behavior, Stanford, Harvard. I studied life coaching. I studied NLP. I studied Cialdini. I studied all these things and started putting together a patient management and communication system that could help people move past, understand them, and help move past their limiting beliefs. And what I found is I did that, to be honest with you, for selfish reasons, right? Because I wanted to know why for patients, and I wanted them to commit. Well, what I found was when I started applying all this, that people, one after another, were lining up. They were bringing their spouse, bringing their kids. Oh my God, my practice grew so fast. In 11 years, in 5 months, it grew more in 5 months than it had over 11 years. And it became so predictable. It was like a system. And I had confidence and excitement. And my team was excited that before I would go into the clinic in the morning, I'd be like, wow, who's going to walk in today that has no idea? They're going to walk in maybe because of an organ problem, because our patients were trained, but they may walk in with back pain or neck pain or a headache. And in 3 days, their whole family's going to be in, and they're going to want to live their life differently. And that was exciting, not only confident, but it really was freedom. And then one day I realized, I looked at my schedule, there was 232 people that day with a bunch of new patients and re-exams. And I thought, man, I'm 90 days away from 300 a day. But yet I got 10,000 people driving by my office today, and I need to make a bigger impact. A year and a half later, I was out of my clinic. I began coaching over the years. In 2008, I started Elite Coaching that's based on corrective care. I think that's the best application of the principle, and started incorporating all this research on human behavior and developed such a solid patient management system that over the years we developed boot camps, and Elite Coaching have taken hundreds of doctors through this system and this training that literally is so predictable that we've helped hundreds of doctors just really explode their practice and have it become easy. So MCA is really about giving you the tools and the training so that you can have the same result, because you deserve to fulfill your purpose in chiropractic. And we believe chiropractic is a message that can change humanity. And there's no other training like this in the profession. So at some point you feel a responsibility. And really the purpose of MCA is to make this so easy for you. I mean, the communication skills take some time, but so easy financially that it's an easy decision. You invest the time, you apply the tools and develop the skill, and you will see a massive and immediate change in your patients. So how's that? So what I want to do is first I want to start. In 2015, Gallup did a study, and they determined, got my notes here, they determined that 14% of Americans go to chiropractors. Here we've been at this, 222 years, 14%. 122. 14% of Americans, how are we doing so far? And then they determined, when they polled those 14%, 70% of the 14% think chiropractic is about neck and back pain. Wow, that gets even more discouraging. That means if we take 30% of 14%, 4.2 of Americans have some idea of chiropractic principle. And how many of those even have spinal correction? Are those subluxations actually being corrected? So when we look at this, it's time we do something different. It's time we change the definition of chiropractic, not only in the American public, but certainly around the world. And if we can do that, we're almost at the tipping point at 14%, yet the whole definition isn't even accurate with the whole principle of chiropractic. So if we can change that by helping you become a better communicator, helping you be able to transform people through the emotional cycle to create more lifetime patients, then I believe we can actually do this. I believe that in less than 10 years, that we can make more impact with these tools in less than 10 years than we've made in 122 years. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe it's the crazy people that can change the world. But if that sounds like a great idea to you, then maybe we can start a movement. Now, what's that movement? Well, it takes a little bit different perspective. How do we look at who we are? See, when a patient comes in, neck pain, back pain, blood pressure, whatever, right? They come in for a condition. But really what we want to do is we want to help them change their whole life, right? We want them to live their life differently, and their family and their friends and everybody they know and everybody in their circle of influence. Well, we're going to show you how to do that. So the reality is we're more than just chiropractors. We want to help people live a better life. What's that mean? We're actually self-empowerment coaches, right? With chiropractic being the healthcare application. So if we can shift our mindset, there's one thing, we always say 2 things that must progress to take you to the next level in your practice and life. Mindset needs to shift 1, systems need to shift number 2. One of the reasons people get stuck is your mindset is at the level that you're at, but your goals are up here. If you don't have the goals of the mindset and the systems of your goals, you're not going to reach them. So the first thing that needs to expand is mindset. Next, the systems have to follow. Now in communication, this is the mindset. That if we can look at ourselves as self-empowerment coaches and develop the skill, the tools, and develop the skill that self-empowerment coaches have that help people move past their limiting beliefs into an empowered life, doesn't that sound like chiropractic? So if we shift our mindset and then we learn the communication tools that do that, then that's why I see people, your practice turns into a vacuum. Elite doctors, people who go to the boot camps, literally they get sucked up. Now it's so predictable. We have a program called the 90-Day Difference. Hey, you can grow 30 to 50% in 90 days. And we actually guarantee it when you go through the boot camp system. So we're taking pieces of the boot camp system and we're giving them to you in MCA, and we're teaching things that aren't even in, that things that are emphasized in there, and then things that I'm just pulling from different sources. Now, it doesn't mimic the boot camp because it's not the immersion experience. However, you study these and you will make a significant difference. So let's start with the mindset shift number 1. Let's look at ourselves and see ourselves as self-empowerment coaches. Now, the reality is there's never been a self-empowerment training in chiropractic. Well, this is it. And this is why you want to be part of this and you want to know this. So what I want to do is just give you an introduction to a handful of principles that we're going to cover on many webinars. So I'm not going to go into detail on these because they are explained in more detail on the webinars, along with much more. So I'm going to go through a few foundational principles. Okay. The first one is the emotional cycle that you take every patient through. It's like a horseshoe. Okay. And the reason it's a horseshoe is that's their emotional tone. Now, when I explain this to you, and we're not going to give you details, but I'm just going to give you the premise. When you understand the premise and you put everybody through that cycle, every patient, how many patients? Every patient through that cycle, then the probability that they're going to commit to care and become a lifetime patient is so predictable that what we've seen in Elite and at the boot camps is 8 out of 10 new patients will commit to care. Now, commit to care is not starting care. We're talking about at least the first 40 visits. Less than 40 visits is not a commitment to care by our standard and definition. Then 80% of those will become lifetime patients. So here's the model, okay? And when you take them through this horseshoe emotional cycle, you can expect to see 8 out of 10, when you get this down, commit to care, 40 visits or more, 8 out of 10 of those move into lifetime care. How's that? Is that pretty predictable? Would you like to see them go through that? And that's why we have the program 90-Day Difference. You can look at that into elitecoachingllc.com. So the first one, let's look at that horseshoe. The first, before we go down, we have to have a common problem. What's that mean? You always start with a common reality. The problem is I have a full spine problem. Now there's 5 steps. How many steps? 5 steps every patient must go through. Step number 1, I have a full spine problem. So if a person is subluxated, they come in with neck pain, they come in with back pain, what part of their spine is subluxated? Is it just one? Is it just L5, right? Their whole posture is off, right? In fact, one of the most common causes of back pain is forward head posture, and thoracic shifts are the most common, actually. So number 1, they have to say, my whole spine is subluxated. Number 2, they have to say, I don't want to be like this anymore. I mean, they have to get to the point where they're like, I'm done. I'm done, not just with back pain. I'm done being weak. I'm done being sick. I want to have a better life. They have to say, I don't want to be like this anymore. See, these are things that you're doing in your life. Why do your kids get grounded? Because you say, I'm done. Why do you get in a lengthy discussion with your spouse? Because you say, I'm done. Why do people say, you know what? I'm done. I'm going to lose weight. I'm done. I'm going to work out. Why do people make massive change? Why does a drug addict say, you know, after 3 times in rehab, this time I'm done and I don't even need rehab? Because they say, I don't want to be like this anymore. That creates emotional motion. The third step is once they move, once they say, okay, I need to move, we have to guide their steps. So what you have to do is eliminate other options, meaning you don't want to hear, I want a second opinion. You don't want to hear, let me go to my physical therapist. Let me stand up straighter, right? The fourth is they have to know where that destination is, right? So what does that mean? They have to have a clear vision and goals of what they're going to do and where their life is going. How we apply that? 20, 30-year health and life goals. So they're buying their life. They're not buying your program. And number 5, we prove the correction, meaning we do a stress x-ray, potential correction potential x-ray, like laying them on a dental roll, do some rehab, take an x-ray, show the change. So what's the first one? I have a full spine problem. Number 2, create emotional motion. I don't want to be like this anymore. Number 3, now that they're moving, eliminate other options so they move a straight line in your program. Number 4, they have to know where they're going so they see the life they want, and your program is the way they reach it. Number 5, prove the correction. So one of the things you're going to learn in the webinar is 80% of influence is physiology, how they feel in their body, and psychology. 20% is facts. So you notice we have 5 steps. It's physiology and psychology. So the first 4 are dealing with how they feel and their mindset, and the last one proves a correction. So this is right in line with research. So now let's go back to that emotional horseshoe. We start with a common problem. We know we got to take them through those steps. The second part is we go down. Now they have to come in touch with their pain. Now it's not physical pain, it's emotional pain. What's that mean? Pain ignites change. What's that mean? Pain gets people moving. It's all it does, get it moving. See, physical pain, they may come to you with back pain and they say, but they won't commit to a program. Emotional pain, and when they say, I don't want to be like this anymore, pain is when their model doesn't match their world. What's that mean? The way I think my life should be and the way my life is are very different. So that just ignites change. It gets an immediate action. Pleasure makes it permanent. So if you want to create lifetime patient, it's all about pleasure, right? Let me show you an example. Why do you get married? Because you want to create a fulfilling life. Yet we go through lots of little pain. Why do you have kids? Right? You go through lots of little pain, but you want to have a family. It's really pleasure motivated. Why do you buy a bigger house? Why do you buy a different car? Because long-term pleasure. If you're making a long-term decision, most of the time it's based on long-term pleasure. It's pain that initiates it, and then long-term pleasure. So when you understand it's pain, pleasure that motivate people, pain goes down the first side, pleasure goes up the second side. Okay? So we have pain, our model doesn't match our world. Then as we go down further, we have suffering. Suffering is when your model doesn't match your world and you're powerless to change it. So what's that mean? That means if I don't do something massive, I will never get better. In fact, my life is going to get continually worse. Right? So that's why your kids get grounded. I mean, that's why people get new careers. There's all kinds of things, reasons that we do this. When we experience suffering, we make massive change. Now we go from the common problem, pain and suffering. That's day 1, day 2. We show you how to do that in a pre-consult, in elite coaching, in a consult. How to focus on organ problems, not just back pain. See, if you sit there and say, Mrs. Jones, how does your back pain affect your life? Well, I can't pick up my kids. Well, I understand that may feel like suffering at the moment, but the minute their back pain's gone, it's a short term. Because it's focused on the pain, it's still a short-term goal. It doesn't mean you can't create lifetime patients. It just means with the majority of people, it's not going to be effective over time. It's a way to get a person in a program, but it's not a way to keep them. So if pleasure is long-term, that's why when people say, you know what, doc, I'm not going to sign up for the second phase of care. I mean, they don't say that. What do they say? I'm going to quit. Well, and what do we do? If you stop, you're going to lose all the results. See, that's pain and consequence. You can't, well, not that you can't, but most commonly and generally, you're not going to motivate a person into long-term care with consequences and pain. Pleasure motivates them into long-term care, right? And so how do you have a system that creates long-term pleasure? Well, that's in the daily visit. It's in the re-exam. It's in a number of things we have in elite coaching and things that you're going to learn on MCA that are really systems that we pull out of elite coaching. That's where you master it. So we're going to give you some of those principles in MCA. But that's why people quit, because we didn't have systems for long-term pleasure. So when you look at pain and pleasure, you go down the other side. It's all pain. We go pain into suffering. Got to get them suffering. I'm ready to change. That's day 1, day 2. Now we have a 3-day where you can learn a 3-day system. Now we do 20, 30-year health and life goals. And then we look at their values. What do people value? You're a chiropractor. What do you value? Being a mentor, making an impact in your community, right? Changing people's lives and health, being a self-empowerment coach. How about if you're a mother or a father, raising a healthy family, right? Giving your kids every opportunity for success. See, those are values. So we look at their 20, 30-year health and life goals. We talk about their values. We get them into a higher emotional state. When people are in a peak state, then they can do great things. Now, a lot of this was taken from Tony Robbins. He gets 8,000 people to walk across 2,000-degree coals, and less than 0.5% get blisters on their feet. How does he do that? Because he's taking them through pain, pleasure. He's taking them through this horseshoe. So if they can walk across fire, then what if we use the same principle? Will they walk across fire for chiropractic for them and their family? Now, so you're going to learn this model, and you're going to learn the steps of how to take people through that. You're going to see these on the webinars. Now let's go into a couple other principles. Okay. Number 1, let's understand how people make decisions. Well, we have 6 human needs. This is also from Tony Robbins, Unleash Power Within. 6 human needs. That means there's 6 emotional needs that people want to meet. Number 1 is certainty. They have to be absolutely certain of something. Certainty represents safety. It represents protection. Represents something predictable. Okay. Then another need is uncertainty. Well, we have to have some spontaneity. So, for instance, when you're dealing with time and money, there has to be absolute certainty. There has to be detail. One of the reasons people quit is you have open-ended recommendations. What's that mean? That means say, well, we're going to come for this amount of time, then we're going to see how you do, and we'll go from there. It's too uncertain, right? That's why they quit at that point. So uncertainty means spontaneity. One of the reasons people don't become lifetime patients, they're bored. The daily routine is so certain and so predictable that their need for spontaneity is gone. And so when you're not meeting the need for uncertainty, people quit. Now there's systems that you can put in that meet that need. The third is significance. People want to feel important. And so in Elite, we have some reward systems. So you have to create significance. The fourth is love and connection. So one of the things that people need to feel, they need to feel part of a family, right? They need to feel connected. How do you create that family atmosphere? Well, you could say it's friendly. Yes, we're a family, but they need more than that. They need individual recognition for certain things and awards and rewards. They need to feel connected on an emotional level. Just because you have a great feeling of family in your practice, you need systems to create where they know they're a member of the family, and there's ways to do that. The fifth is growth. People need to feel like they're growing. They're growing in health, hopefully, right? They're either growing in disease or growing in health. There's a way to show them how they're growing in health through the re-exams, and it's not by reviewing the objective findings. The objective findings are facts. That's 20% influence. We're talking about emotional growth. They need emotion. If they're not growing emotionally, they're going to find another avenue where they are. Number 6 is contribution. Now they need to contribute to the culture and contribute to the purpose. Now I know in Elite and in MCA, we show you how to get each patient to the level of contribution. Now when you do that, they become a chiropractic leader. See, the problem is, in my opinion, in the profession, we spend all this time learning how to create a chiropractic patient. Well, creating a patient is easy. It's easy to get people started. Creating a chiropractic leader is a person that teaches chiropractic. If they can teach it, not only will they live it, but they can refer other people. And isn't that really the purpose? So once you meet the first 5 needs, you can get the person to the 6th need, which is contribution. When you have systems and communication that can meet all 6 needs, then you create lifetime patients left and right, left and right. Retention is massive. They come year after year after year. Now, I know there's people on there saying, well, we have patients like that. My question is, if you look back at all the files of all the new patients over the last few years, how many of those are still with you and how many of those are in lifetime care? I know everybody creates lifetime patients, right? But what percentage is that? Is it really 80%? Imagine if you did. You wouldn't need to spend all that time and energy marketing, because you'd be creating massive amount of great patients that are committed, that are chiropractic leaders, that are bringing in their friends and family. So as a self-empowerment coach, now what's the mindset of a self-empowerment coach? I want to go through 8 presuppositions. These are NLP presuppositions. Presuppositions mean things we can presuppose. So there's 8 things. How many is that? This many? There's 8 things that if you develop this mindset, it will help you develop the mindset of a self-empowerment coach to understand people. Now, number 1, the map is not the territory. What's that mean? It means when you have a map, you're going from point A to point B, one person can go this way and another person can go that way. The territory is the same, but the map, according to those 2 people, are very different experiences. This is a very different life from this person. So what's that mean in your mindset? That means that we haven't respect the route that they walked in life. You don't understand a person until you walk a mile in their shoes. So when you see the route that they took, when you've seen their map, it doesn't matter what the territory is. All they know is their map. When you respect their map, then you understand why they have the limiting beliefs that they do. So step 1 isn't to judge what they say, it's to understand based on the life they've lived, they've established these beliefs. Number 2, the meaning of the communication is the response you get. What's that mean? When you communicate to someone and you look at their response, that's the meaning that they assumed or the meaning that you projected. So when you communicate, if you don't like the response, then we need to change the meaning. Number one, the response will help you identify the meaning they assigned, and the meaning determines how they feel. How they feel is the emotion, the result of the emotion, which is going to determine how they respond to you, right? So you may have a certain meaning they communicated they didn't like. Maybe you said something and the meaning they assigned elicited a certain reaction. So the point is we don't judge the communication, the response back to us. We look at, wow, what meaning did they assign? And based on that meaning, I can identify the limiting belief. The third one, individuals have all the resources they need to achieve the outcome they want. What's that mean? Every person has an empowered resource. The most powerless person at some point in their life dug an empowered resource out of them to do something to get out of a bind, right? So when people say I can't afford it, hey, they've run into unexpected things. You know, when the wife or the mother of the house got pregnant, did they think, wow, we can afford everything for their whole life now, right? Well, I doubt that, because most people are like, oh crap, what are we going to do now? But they found a way to raise their kids, have the money, and give their kid a decent life, right? Because every person is empowered. Now, when you believe that, then you don't take their objection seriously. So I can't afford it is not even really an objection. It's a mindset. Now, how do we get to that? How do we establish that mindset? Because every person has an empowered resource. And you guys know, hey, if someone's living in the winter, say in Michigan, and it's 20 below and your hot water heater blows out, the husband doesn't say to his wife, honey, we can't afford it, it's not in our budget, right? If he's a happy man and still alive in the next 3 hours, he's on the phone finding out how they're going to pay for a hot water heater. The problem is we didn't know how to make them feel the same way about chiropractic. But when you can do that, people find the money. Their biggest power and resource is human emotion. The most powerful resource is not money. The most powerful resource is emotion. So when you know how to find that emotional resource, then people find the money for your care. There's never a lack of money. Well, not never. I mean, there may be great desire, but rarely, what it is a lack of the proper emotional resource to help that person find a way. What's the next one? Every behavior is motivated by positive intention. What's that mean? That no matter what they say, there's a positive intent. So even when a person may be aggressive or protective or what's my insurance cover or I don't like chiropractors, right? Still has a positive intention. Maybe they don't like chiropractors because they had a friend that got hurt by a chiropractor. Who knows? I'm just saying. Maybe they were raised with a dad that was an MD and a chiropractor missed a cancer patient. See what that is if they feel vulnerable or uncertain or have fear or it threatens their survival, protection is the most basic foundational positive intent for our survival instinct. So if we feel vulnerable, we go back to survival. That's why a person says, I can't afford it. Why? They're protecting their financial status, right? So when you see that as a protection and that has a positive intent, and you see that as they do have an empowered resource, then you learn how to handle that. And those people that originally say, I can't afford it, really find and have the money and they get in the program. And they even come in with their families, but you have to know how to handle that. But first, you have to realize the most aggressive, if you want to call it, statement that may have no logic at all, does have a positive intent, so you don't judge it, right? The next one, number 5, is effective communicators utilize all communication presented to them. What's that mean? People are telling you how to motivate them all the time. Like a person says, Doc, I'm ready to fix it. And then we think, God, that's great. Yeah, let's go right into the finance. I go, oh, I didn't know it was going to cost that much. So one of the last webinars that we went over in May was about why. So when a person says, Doc, I want to fix it, what do? You say, why? Well, I'm tired of being this way. Why? Because I'm tired of having a weak body and a weak life. I'm ready to be healthy. Really, why? Because I'm afraid that I'm going to get sick and I'm not going to be able to support my family. Boom, there's the reason. Sometimes we have to ask 3 whys. We went through a whole webinar on that, on how, because great communicators use the communication that's given to them. People are handing you, I call them the metaphorical silver platters all the time. But if you don't know them, you don't recognize them. But when you go through MCA or the boot camps or elite MCA, it parts the veil. You know, it's like blinders, right? Whoop, pull the string, they open up, and all of a sudden you see that people are telling you how to motivate them. What's the next one? All outcomes are achievements. Number 6, what's that mean? Every response that they get is an achievement because you learned something. There's no failure. So what it does, it helps you shift your direction. You know, they give you the communication that tells you what their limiting belief is. So all outcomes are achievements. Number 7, the element of a system with the most flexibility is the catalyst, is the strength of the system. What's that mean? Well, a lot of management groups, you get scripts. I mean, we have scripts too. We don't have very many to memorize, though, because we apply the scripts to each type of person, which is significantly different than every other management group. So what's the difference? What I ran into is people say, you know, just memorize your scripts. Well, Doc, how do I handle that objection? Just memorize your scripts. No, scripts are very rigid, right? There's more than scripts. Scripts don't handle objection. They guide the topic. So when you hear, well, just know your scripts. No, I mean, yes, you have to know your scripts, but that's not the answer. The answer is scripts guide the topic, but how do I remain flexible with each different person? I need to know what's their personality type. What's that archetype in a sense? What's their limiting belief? How do I clear it? How do I find that empowered resource while scripts are just keeping them on chiropractic, organ problems, and overall health? So we have to have that flexibility with each different person. Okay, what's the 8th one? Respect each person's reality. What's that mean? Hey, you know what? It's kind of like the first one, the map's not the territory. Whatever their belief system is, respect it. It doesn't have to be right. It doesn't have to be logical. It doesn't have to make any sense, but that's not your place to judge because you haven't lived their life day by day. So if you live their life, you may have a less empowered belief than they do. We don't even know, right? Well, maybe it's great that we didn't live their life, but, you know, certainly in that aspect, when we respect their reality, we don't go into judgment. When we don't go into judgment, we don't judge. Obviously, we don't get defensive. If we don't get defensive, we can maintain our state, which means being neutral, being accepting, being loving, and seeing the empowered resource, seeing the best in them. Now, there's a few templates that I'm going to give you right here that you're going to learn through the webinars. Okay. And when you learn these things and you learn these steps, you will learn basically a very strong foundation on how to handle just about anybody. The first one is 7 steps to mastering change. 7 steps to mastering change I learned from Tony Robbins coaching. And this is a basic foundational template of self-empowerment. Really, you need to understand who they are. They need to take responsibility. If they're on an emotional going in the wrong direction, you interrupt the pattern, right? Change the meaning, introduce a new state. 7 steps to mastering change also takes them through the horseshoe. First 4 steps take them down the bottom. The last 3 steps take them up the top. Then we, number 5, introduce a new state. 6, condition the state. 7, align it with their purpose. We actually have an 8-video series product on Elite Coaching that is a full video training on 7 steps to master change. Now, when you master that, you have the basic foundational principle for a very powerful self-empowerment system that will not only change your life and how you express yourself, but it will help in your marriage and with kids, in every relationship. It'll help you with patience. It'll help you take them through that horseshoe. The second thing that we cover on one webinar is the 3 obstacles of change. What's that mean? Something that's inevitable, right? Something in their past they can't change, right? And something, God, what's the last one? I forgot the last one. Something is inevitable, something in their past they can't change, shit, I forgot it. Just blanked right out of my mind. Anyway, we go in detail on 3 obstacles of change. Now, these things are something out of their control. Sorry, I pulled that one out. Something is inevitable. Sorry about that. Something in their past they can't change, something out of their control. What's that mean? Something is inevitable. Hey, it's my genetics, right? Something in their past they can't change. Hey, I had an accident. Ever since this is the way my life's going to be. Something that's out of their control. My spouse hates chiropractors. They won't come to the workshop or the ROF. So those are common objections. Now, the basic underlying emotion is all those things. Since they can't change it, it leads to powerlessness. When a person feels powerless, they can't take an empowered action. What's that mean? If they can't take an empowered action, that means they're not going to move into your program. Well, how do we take a person like that and handle it? 7 steps to mastering change. Take them through the horseshoe. But when you identify, oh, I see, it's your genetics. Okay, what's that mean? No way they're gonna want to deal with that problem. They're not going to pay you, right? It's not about paying; it's about commitment, right? So then we automatically know, oh, something is inevitable. Something's out of their control. They feel powerless. Okay, we got to go to the powerless archetype and learn how to take a powerless person through 7 steps. See, once you identify it, right, then we know how to take them through that emotional cycle. What's the next one? Third one, 4 qualities that make a decision powerful. We cover this. What's that mean? Number one, the earlier they made the decision, the more powerful it will be. In other words, when you make decisions from childhood, they're buried in your subconscious mind, you live those out many times your whole life. So would be an example. Hey, you know what? My family, if you can't afford it with cash, then we don't use credit cards, right? How often you hear we don't use credit cards in the financial. Hey, they could have been raised with that belief system. What's the second one? Any decision that's made under a highly emotional condition. What's that mean? Hey, they're in an emotional crisis with some decision. They make a decision, it works out. Man, wires into them. They make that decision all the time. What's the next one? A key decision has precedence. What's that mean? Hey, I ran into this problem. It doesn't need to be under a highly emotional state, but I did this and it worked out great. So every time I run into something similar, I'm automatically going to make the same decision. Well, what's that mean? You know what? I need to think about it for 24 hours. That's a key decision. It also could be a decision made on a highly emotional situation, right? But more likely, it's a key decision. So that's an objection you hear. Now, you go through, you learn how to clear that. How do you clear that? 7 steps to mastering change. See, that's the basic underlying template. But when you know what are the 4 qualities that make a decision strong, because they make it strong, you're not going to change it with information. See, here's the thing. 3 obstacles to change, right? Makes them powerless. You're not going to change it with information, right? 4 qualities make a decision powerful, right? It's so wired into them, you're not going to change it with information. It's emotionally wired into them. And then the last one, 6 steps to regaining influence in a relationship. This is when people have a belief system and they establish rules. Well, what's a rule? Well, you know what? We don't use credit cards. I need to think about it for 24 hours. See, these are rules. And rules can be based off belief systems. So when you hear a rule, then you know, oh, okay, I need to take them through 6 steps, right? So we teach you, how do you identify the rule, right? Not only how do you identify it, but what is it? Where did it come from? How did that rule form? And take them through the steps. So 7 steps to mastering change is the basic horseshoe template. So you take them through. Then you go 3 obstacles to change. When do people feel powerless? They won't take empowered action. Then 4 qualities that make a decision powerful. Wow, I can see, God, you made that decision a long time ago. It's been there for a long time. You know, a person that says, doc, just cracked my back. I've been to 8 different chiropractors. That's a decision that's been repeated and rewarded. So it's worked for them over time. I don't know if I mentioned that one. 4 qualities. The earlier, the more emotional, key decision, and the last one was been repeated and rewarded. Hey, that's somebody who's been 8 different chiropractors. Doc, just cracked my back. You know what I mean? I know, just one adjustment and I'm great. So how do you change that? Take them through 7 steps. You might want to get the video product as well as be on these webinars. So here are some principles. This is just a basic example of things that you're not going to hear in chiropractic. Trust me, they are not there. This is the only place. It's either in elite coaching, it's at the boot camps, it's in MCA. MCA is a first great step. It's obviously a very low financial commitment. It's more of a commitment on time to learn how to do this. However, with learning how to be a self-empowerment coach, and the more people we can spread this to and get this through the profession, I really believe that we can hit the tipping point on chiropractic principle. The subluxated spine makes you sick. And a healthy optimal spine with spinal correction gets you healthy, and you can live a different life. You're going to have more people living a healthier life with a chiropractic lifestyle, right? So if there's things that you didn't know right now and heard objections that you're hearing but don't know how to handle them, or maybe you're throwing the dice, maybe sometimes you get lucky but it's not predictable, then is this training worth it? Because really what it does is this training will lead you to a purpose. So if you're willing to accept as a chiropractor, right, or anybody for that matter, that you're really a self-empowerment coach, and in chiropractic you have a healthcare application, then this is a professional training that will change your life. It will change you from the inside out. It will change how you relate to people from the inside out. And it will certainly change your practice from the inside out. Change your team, change your practice from the inside out. If growth is difficult, then in my opinion, your systems are weak. Growth can be easy. And it's not because I say so. It's because we've done it with hundreds of chiropractors. In fact, to the tune of 93.6% success rate, grow their practice 30 to 50% after they've been through the boot camp system. Now, you will see a change in your practice when you get on these MCA webinars. What I also would like to welcome you to do is, if you have any questions, then please call me. Feel free to call me, because this is about making an impact in humanity with corrective chiropractic, right? So I would love to have a relationship with you. Man, if you want to study this stuff, I'd love to help you become great, become a great leader, see you at seminars, and really help you fulfill your purpose. I feel like I have fulfilled mine in practice, that now we're able to go to a new level. You deserve to fulfill your purpose, and that's going to come through mindset and systems. It's going to come through the mindset, your self-empowerment coach with healthcare application. It'll come through the tools that we teach in MCA, Elite, boot camps, right? And time to develop the skill to use these tools to a higher level. So if you're willing to do that, then let's get busy, because we got a lot of people to help and serve. Thank you. I'll see you on the calls, see you at the boot camps, Elite seminars, or just see you around the profession. Peace. Thank you.